Alright, so I think maybe before we continue duels, we should just read the lore off the wiki.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot easier to focus on the lore if we just read it off the wiki.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not using somebody in chat said not using the good worms.
That is the good worm.
I think Yagan is like one of
Yagan
the
is the
true
best
good
main deck worm.
worms.
Yagan is
There's
one
like
of the only
Yagan
main
and
deck
the
monsters.
card that searches Yagan, if I remember correctly.
Yagan, Zex, and then Victory is pretty alright. And King is kind of decent. Those are like... It says something when you're running less than 15 main deck monsters in a deck. This is 12 monsters. And Carteros is okay. That's just a worm searcher. But on a flip effect. And the Allies of Justice are formed. As a result of the invasion, entire tribes began to die out.
I'm just gonna show the wiki.
I feel like reading out loud.
I will read out loud as well. Here, read. You can read. You're at Allies of Justice.
Yeah.
Read to Gen X. Actually, you read the worm stuff, and then I'll do the Nicheria stuff.
Okay. They realized they couldn't each oppose the invaders alone, and decided to join forces. Let me. It's not.
It should be window capture 4.
Yeah,
I love livable coin. Fuck. Oh, it's there. We go. Does it capture properly? Yes, it does actually. Captures a little weirdly, but it captures.
Gonna crop out my toolbar and then. Thus, the Alliance Ally of Justice was formed. It was headed by the 4 main tribes that had the most influence on the continent and began developing and producing anti-worm weapons. So there's Flamevel Uruquizas, General Grenard of the Ice Barrier, Commander.
I like how their
Sword.
solution to the worm. Hold up, Candace. I love how the anti-worm weapons are just bigger versions of shit they already had. Like how do the ice barriers deal with worms? Fuck it, more swords.
I think that's just ice magic. That's not. I think that's a show. I think that's a show of force, not actual weapons.
Yeah, but they're like anti-worm weapons. Began producing anti-worm weapons, and they're like examples of these are more fire, more swords, more lightning.
Well, I mean, when all you have is fire, what else can you do but add more?
You're lucky I was already drinking, so I'm good. Okay. Then we move on to... And the Ally of Justice is just like, hey, more shit.
Unknown Crusher is unironically would be just decent, like actually good, if it wasn't after the damage step.
Oh,
wait,
I forgot what doesn't Crusher destroy itself? Hold up.
No, when this card battles a light monster, remove that monster from play after damage calculation.
I like how they show all the bad Ally of Justice cards and none of the good Ally of Justice
No, there's
cards
Catastrophe
except
here.
for Catastrophe. Like, there's no
Reverse
Cycle
Break
Reader
is the one.
or...
Reverse Break is the one that kills itself.
Reverse Break. Okay, got you. Why does Reverse Break kill itself?
Who knows? There's Rudra, Colossalus. That's just a normal monster.
Colossalus is just a normal monster, and
it's a level 6 normal monster.
Colossalus is...
And it was printed in speed duels.
To make... Colossalus exists to make the Synchro, which is better.
Colossalus exists to give a link to Mist Valley before Mist Valley was printed. Colossalus was printed before Mist Valley was a thing, so its flavor text references that.
Yeah.
And then there's Thousand Arms, which is just a Sura Priest, but worst.
These cards have military grade restrictions on them. No. These cards don't have military grade restrictions on them. They're just like
Bad.
Like they're fine cards if they were printed when the game first came out.
Or during the GX era, even.
Yeah, like, if this was printed during the GX era, it'd be fine, but this was printed during the 5Ds era, where
this was printed during, like, the mid-5Ds era.
This was printed, like, a good example is this was printed during the same time that,
Teledad.
Yeah, like Teledad and, like, frogs and shit like that. Like second wave frogs.
And then Catastor is actually good, because it was a complete and perfect cooperation between the 4 tribes.
Catastor was actually good because...
And it's still good, it's just we have moved away from the battle phase.
Because it destroys non-dark monsters.
Yeah, it's still good. It's still objectively a good card. We just don't do the battle phase anymore.
It's used in Duel Links, yeah.
Well, Duel Links is Duel Links is different. Like, trap cards are actually good in Duel Links instead of, like, just Solemns.
There are some good trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah, I know, I was exaggerating, but still.
Lore, yeah. Ally of Justice, Lore Man.
Ally of Justice Catastor was built by a complete and perfect cooperation between the 4 tribes, and that's why it's good. That's why it's one of the only good monsters. And then the Worms and Gen X come into contact. Around this time, the Ally of Justice engineers confirmed the existence of the Gen X. Although their precise purpose was unknown, the Gen X were observed to be silent creatures who seemed to have the ability to improve the environment around them. When they encountered the Worms, they recognized them as outside invaders who polluted and destroyed the environment, so they began to eliminate them. Meanwhile, the allies...
Wait. Ally of Gen X was created to help the environment.
No, Gen X exist. They were not created.
Okay.
Gen X are creatures. The allies launched an investigation to the Gen X's true nature. And then Gen X Controller allows the other Gen X to reveal their full power through its ability to combine its central control core with them.
See, this is what I don't have. Like, the only card in Gen X that worked really well with Controller was, like, Undyne, right?
I mean, there's Gaia.
Like, well, yeah, but, like, Undyne actually let you search Controller.
Yeah, Gen X Undyne is good enough to be a 1-card engine. In my opinion. Or technically 3-card. Like, normal Undyne, dump Rosenix, search Controller, make normal Spider, or Link Spider with the Rosenix token, and then make Hulk.
Yeah. It's just that, like, that just kind of, like, gets you Auroradon access.
It can get you more than Auroradon, but Auroradon is definitely the best use.
Yeah. That's why I said it just gets you Auroradon access, because that's, like, the best thing you can do with it. Undyne is good because of Mermails with Fishborg Blaster, just kicked ass. It's true.
Undyne is still...
The ability to just ditch any card to get, like... the ability to just straight send Fishborg Blaster to the graveyard is pretty good.
Gen X, or Crystron Rosenix is an honorary Gen X card at this point.
Yeah, fair.
The double X Sabers are formed.
Actually, I feel like fucking Undyne should just be a honorary fucking Crystron card, because it gives Crystron a
it is in Duel Links
turn. Like in
Duel Links, Gen X Controller is semi-limited.
Yes, yeah, because of not because of Gen X, but because of fucking
Crystron. After many battles against the Worms, the X-Sabers were injured. Gotham's, their leader at the time, chose the next generation of swordsmen. The double X-Sabers are headed off to the battlefield once again.
I like how, like, they show, oh yeah, the Worms are getting cooler and cooler, and then, like...
And then their effect is just not good.
Worse and worse.
I mean, that implies there was more than... That implies there were any good effects before the letter K. Well, Kartaros, but...
Yeah, fair.
That's just worse magic. This is just a worse magic cylinder.
Wasn't Worm Noble just bad?
Worm Noble is literally just magic cylinder, but worse. Because not only do you have to flip it, it has to be flipped face up by a monster's attack. It's only half the attack that's burned. So it's just worse magic cylinder.
It's also level 6.
Yeah, but that's not. Worm levels don't necessarily matter with their continuous spell.
Really, what does their continuous spell do? Worm calling.
I think that's it, actually.
I think that's it. Wait, what do you mean? There's the
Worm calling is the name of the spell.
Oh yeah, okay.
The next
Okay,
generation.
yeah, that explains why. That turns on the deck, I suppose. I just wish.
More
it
like
let
W
me,
Nebula Meteorite.
Yeah.
The next generation of X-Sabers, with Gotham's continuing to serve as leader, using feedback from the various improvements to the Allies of Justice. Each of the members put on equipment with mechanical functions. So they just turned it into a fucking, like, Kawaki Meru, but better.
Yeah.
Double
There's
X-Saber...
a regular X-Saber Gotham's. Commander
he,
Gotham's. Oh, yeah. Commander Gotham's Swordmaster.
The Double X-Saber Ragigura is just a Kawaki Meru monster.
Is it really just... Wait, Kawaki Merus are in this? Please tell me
no,
they're not.
They're not.
God.
But this thing looks like a Kawaki Meru monster.
That is true. It does not fit at all with the... Well, it kind of does, I suppose.
You
mean Rockstun?
It wasn't Rockstun in Duel Links.
I like how this is just a discussion on how the lore does not match the effectiveness of the cards. Well, it's because it doesn't.
Until friggin' it either doesn't match or it matches too well and the things are unsummonable.
Well, actually, like, okay, it matches in the case of X-Saber, because they're like, oh yeah, X-Sabers are really... Actually, no, it doesn't, because they're like, oh yeah, X-Sabers got their asses kicked by worms, and then they became good. But, like, normal X-Saber was better than...
they got overwhelmed by sheer numbers.
Yeah, but, like, normal X-Sabers were pretty decent, and then double X-Sabers came out, and that's what made X-Saber broken.
And I think that's what happened here, too.
Fair. But, like, normal X-Sabers would have still beaten the shit out of worms.
Yeah, until the numbers grew and they were outnumbered. Because you can only do so much with a numbers disadvantage.
Dark Soul looks like a Phantom Knights card. You're right, it does.
This looks like... Hold up, it looks like fucking Blood Mephist.
It looks like somebody... It looks like Spirit Reaper took...
No, scratch that.
It looks like somebody actually made an accurate Spirit Reaper instead of what Spirit
It looks
Reaper
like
looks like.
Reaper of the Cards if it was a warrior type.
It looks like Reaper of the Cards grew a pair.
It looks like Reaper of the Cards' dad. And then
it looks like wait, like line them up, like Reaper of the Cards next to Dark's like Dark Soul, and it's just like you, Reaper of the Cards, the guy who tells you not to worry about Dark Soul.
Double X-Saber.
That's what it looks like. Like I think that'd actually be really fucking funny.
Look at his fucking mouth.
What, Reaper of the Souls?
No, Dark Soul.
Dark Soul? Yeah, Dark Soul.
Look at his fucking... Is he a fucking cat boy?
Behind the hood is cat ears. Oh my god.
I want to see this art.
What, Catboy Reaper, what, Catboy Dark Soul?
Yeah, no, Dark Soul, and then he pulls back his hood and you just come fucking cat ears.
Oh my god. Okay, well this is the part I'm supposed to read, ain't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. As the days passed, the conflict spread across... the conflict spread across the entire continent. And the intensity of the worm attacks increased. Their slimy claws finally reached the peaceful Naturia, who joined together to match the power of the invaders to protect their home. The Naturia tribe is fundamentally pacifist, but they could not overlook the worm invasion that polluted their beautiful forest. So they confronted them bravely without a single member stepping back in fear. Okay, but these are bugs and rocks and shit.
Yeah, and then they combine into something that can prevent entire turns.
Yeah, fair. I remember playing Striker against
Also, Naturia
Matt
Cliff
Ace.
could just flatten the. Also, Naturia Cliff is just menacing.
Fair.
He looks so dopey, but he's just a big fucking thing of stone.
Ally of Justice Fear. Oh, the Warriors.
The worst Ally of Justice synchro.
Yeah, the Warriors seeing a valiant. The Warriors see a valiant figure towering over the battlefield, shining in their hopeful eyes. Field Marshal. But it had been severely damaged on the way to the battlefield by a great number of worms, so it was deemed beyond repair.
They broke his fucking kneecaps.
Abandoned.
They broke his knees.
Mm.
He can't bend over and foot.
Since the existing technology of Ally of Justice wasn't enough to create a control system for their large weapons, they captured they captured Gen X Spare and used it as their central control.
Oh my god, the art of Final Gesture. I remember like this is sad. This is like actually like really sad.
Wait. So they like transformed Gen X Spare into.
No, I think Gen X Spare was controlling Ally of Justice Field Marshal, and then Field Marshal fucking died.
Fair.
So Gen X Spare is stuck
Sacred
alone.
Tree is a good.
Sacred Tree is a good card, but that doesn't mean Naturia is a good deck.
To be fair, Splashable's Trap Trick, fair, yeah.
I mean, Trap Tricks, you know.
That's just
Trap Tricks beat Trap Tricks.
Yeah. Alright.
And the Final Gesture is just so sad.
Yeah. The technicians of the Allies of Justice investigated the meteorite that the worms came from, that came from the worm's home star system. They discovered an unknown substance, in which they used to complete the Gen X mind.
And then there's Ally of Justice Enemy Catcher.
Experimentally equipping it, allowed the computing power of the Allies of Justice to rise by leaps and bounds.
They give it so much about equips, and then it's a normal monster. It's not even an equip spell.
They don't have any spells for some fucking reason.
Ally Mind should have been an equip spell.
Yeah, probably. Although it couldn't be miniaturized with the technology available to the Allies of Justice, it managed to increase weapon performance with its high tuning ability.
Did you mean not going into the... You can't make a Catastrophe with it.
Isn't it just like a high-level tuner or something like that? Like a normal
It's a level 5
tuner?
McTeen tuner with 1800 attack.
That's so dumb.
The
Allies began mass-producing weapons for the purpose of capturing worms rather than killing them.
Well, then Enemy Catcher's effect makes sense then. Except it's a fucking level 6 with 1800 attack.
Fair. Oh wait. So Mist Valley Thunderlord became Fabled Raven. Interesting.
And the Mist Valley's left the AOJs.
The Mist Valley tribe had small doubts about the Allies' policy of taking advantage of the voiceless Gen X, since they weren't enemies. These feelings were tiny at first, but the Fabled amplified them into great distrust.
For the rest of the Alliance.
As a result, Mist Valley left the Alliance, and
all according to Keikaku.
Left the Allies of Justice, all according to the schemes of the Fabled. At the same time, the Allies began developing the Cosmic Gateway, but the development was rough, and as they were unable to get the machine to produce the proper output. Desperate times call for desperate measures.
This thing was a secret. This thing was a secret rare, by the way.
Isn't it like
Cosmic
bad?
Gateway is a secret rare.
Like it would be good if it was like a level 4 or something, right?
It's a level 8, but it can special summon itself if your opponent controls 2 or more monsters, including a light monster.
Yeah, this would be better if it was a level 4.
I mean, if you have 2 of them in your hand, that's just a rank 8 Xyz.
Fair.
At the same time, that's not worth gambling on.
Yeah. Perhaps they are awakened by the mayhem on the surface, or perhaps the Allies' dimensional interference or perhaps by the Allies' dimensional interference experiments. Either way, the Fabled, who had been sleeping since time immemorial, awoke and led their minions to the surface world. Fabled is actually one of the, good decks from early Duel Terminal.
Oh hey, Windmill Gen X is here, and that's just and it looks like Rise of the Mega Monarch, but
yeah,
he got a hole put in him.
The philosophy of the Fabled is be faithful to your desires. In accordance with that ideal, these evil gods refuse to aid the tribes, only bothering to interfere in the surface dwellers' fights when it suited their own enjoyment. The Gen X began to repair themselves and optimize their design towards more combat-oriented style. Meanwhile,
and then they have Gen X Army, which is just a bad. They gave it a bazooka, and then it's a tribute monster that I can't remember what its effect is, but even when I was building Pendulum Gen X,
dead card if you're winning.
When this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Gen X monster, you can destroy 1 card your opponent controls.
Meanwhile, Fabled Leviathan appeared on the planet's surface.
The fabled boss monster that does literally nothing except float on a win effect.
The Fabled descended upon the Jirac. The awakened Fabled appeared in the Jirac's nest, the Jirac nest's vicinity, and attacked it. Worm invasions were relatively rare there, so the Jirac were able to join forces and fight back. The Fabled found the counterattack of Jirac to be stronger than they expected, and realized their prey was more formidable than they'd imagined, which made them smile with joy. At this time, the engineers of the Allies of Justice had started
intervening in the evolution of the Gen X.
Gotcha.
They're just playing God.
Pretty much, yeah. The proud Jirac clan refused to let themselves become hunted, and they fought back together against the Fabled with everything they had. The flames that clothed their bodies became fires of unity with their comrades, and with them they burned the Fabled, who had become the hunters to ash.
And then I think none of these are there's like a total of 1 good Jirac monster, and none of these are it.
Yeah, I think it's Alio is the one good, and it's just because it's a level 1 tuner.
That can special summon a Jirac from the hand, I think.
That you don't use that effect, because you just use it as a needle fiber target.
I mean, true, but it still has an
effect, yeah.
It has a good effect that can come into play.
Yeah, fair. In order to make a new energy source for the Allies of Justice, the Allies engineers implanted the real fusion reactor into certain Gen X monsters, which evolved into our Gen X.
I never noticed the green circle on our Gen X Overseer, and that just makes the design so much cooler to me.
It does. On top of the worms, the Fabled had became a new enemy, turning the surface world into a pot of chaos. In order to stop the vast army of worms, who continued to march day and night, and to counter the threat of the elusive Fabled, the Ice Barrier freed the second Ice Dragon.
Gungnir is alive now.
Yeah.
Gungnir with a gun.
With its body freed from the seal, Gungnir began to dance across the battlefield, as if trembling with joy. Its breath turned the invaders and wicked gods into immobile ice sculptures. After leaving the Allies of Justice, Miss Valley
Wait,
fought
pause
on
for a
their...
sec. I need to get.
Gotcha.
I need to get a bit.
You good? What happened? Alright, I shall continue reading. After leaving the Allies of Justice, the Mist Valley fought...
You can do it now. I have
fought
a
on their
good
own.
bit for this. Yeah. Okay, go.
However, the strongest weapon in their arsenal was the lone Mistworm.
Which is not even half bad.
Yeah, true. And when it was defeated, it seemed their troops would be completely routed. And that was when the legendary Dragon Knights rode in to the rescue. The Dragoonity, whose existence was partially considered a legend, are said to dwell in the Dragon Ravine. Thank you for the follow, Katie Cash.
That.
It's
Okay.
Caddy Cash, my bad. Thank you. Don't worry.
Then the winged hussars arrived.
Yeah. They are a tribe that handed down a method of unifying with their dragons in body and soul, known as dragon mastery. This allows them to become Dragoonity Knights, who ride through the air. Final battle with the worms.
For dragon mastery, that's so friggin' so like hyped up. It's just a mediocre continuous spell.
Fair, yeah.
You can just put it. You can equip a once per turn. Equip a Dragoonity from your hand to a
Right.
to a.
As the
face-up
worm
monster.
invasion became strangely, increasingly and increasingly sporadic, the Allies of Justice began constructing their ultimate weapon in preparation for the final battle. At the same time, they wound down production of their other weapons, and focused intensely on creating other tools. The ultimate weapon was to be their ace in the hole, and as they constructed it, the Allies of Justice developed reconnaissance units and mounted with monitoring equipment that was designed to predict where the worms would appear. Thank you for the follow, Draconis Fafnir. Also, let me real quick shout out it's Bo.
Is this Neo Heartland? Is this friggin' Neo Heartland City? No, not Neo Heartland City.
There you go. Check out Bo. He's the guy.
Is this the Team
right
5Ds? Is this the 5D city? In the artwork of Wormcall?
In the artwork of Wormcall? No, I don't think so. No, it does not at all look like that. It does not look like New Domino City.
It might be the skyscraper cities. The skyscraper
when they completed the
one
final
city.
weapon, they used Gen X controller as its central core.
Stop abusing the Gen X. They didn't do anything.
As they'd anticipated, an ominous and terrifying worm appeared that was incomparable with any that they had encountered up to that point. Spare tore apart from...
Thanks for the follow, Alduin.
Spare tore apart, and from it, despair emerged.
If you look at Worm Zero, there's a skull. It looks like a skull.
Zero increased its power by absorbing its wormkin, and then created a new army everywhere it went. Everywhere it went was tainted and turned into dead earth. An enormous floating fortress constructed to have the greatest firepower was known to the greatest firepower known to the planet was lying in wait for the enemy's appearance. At the end of the fierce battle in which the weapon and Worm Zero attacked each other, At the same time, the worms were completely eradicated. With the worms' defeat, there was short-lived peace, and it was then that the full-scale invasion of the Fabled began. You can read the Fabled stuff if you'd like.
And then, for a brief moment, the tribes cheered excitedly as the world was finally rid of the worms. But the Fabled had been watching the final battle from the sidelines, and now, accompanied by the Fabled beasts, they made their move to conquer the world's surface. If they can kill Worm Zero, the Fabled shouldn't be like that's a
that should be pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, they just busted a planet. They shouldn't have any trouble with the Fabled.
Yeah, I don't understand why they would have any trouble with the Fabled. It doesn't make any sense to me. Honestly, there was an entire subplot about the Jirax kicking the shit out of the Fabled on their own. So
yeah.
It still doesn't fucking make any sense to me.
Well, I guess it was a numbers thing with a Jirax, but still,
yeah.
you just busted a planet. How are these Fabled any threat?
True.
The seemingly endless conflicts that ravaged the surface world gradually wore down the boundary between it and the Fabled realm, eventually causing that boundary to disappear completely. The Fabled, serving as the Fabled army's vanguard, began pouring quietly out of the Fabled realm and threatening the tribe with their paranormal powers. And here comes the Gen X allies. With the Fabled as their enemies, the Ally of Justice weapon series was no longer good enough. How? You just busted a fucking planet. How are they not good enough anymore? Excuse me?
I don't know. Yeah.
So their engineers began a military-focused conversion project on the Gen X, a new version of their ongoing Gen X weaponization plan. For the sake of their plans, the Allies asked the Mist Valley to cooperate with them once again. The Mist Valley agreed and sent its engineers, and the plan succeeded and resulted in the creation of the Gen X Allies. And then Cyclone Creator, they took their old Ally of Justice machines, they repaired the Gen X and installed them as central control cores. They equipped the new Gen X with new power reactors. Thus, the Gen X Allies series was created.
Yeah, pretty much.
And notice how Gen X Ally Reliever...
Maybe dual terminal power scaling isn't like DBZ power scaling.
You mean real world power scale? I feel like if you can bust a planet in any universe, like something that's less than that shouldn't be very hard to deal with.
You would think that.
Gen X Ally Reliever has ironically actually aged really well because hand traps are a thing now.
Yeah, fair.
So like you could like get a body on your own field during the opponent's
this is what
turn.
I don't get. Like why do like how do the Gen X allies? Okay, I guess it makes sense. Yeah.
The Reliever is ironically the Double X Saber model, even though it's about negation. Bellflame is the Flame Bell model.
Unironically, Double X is probably the best one that got an Ally of Justice card. Or a Gen X Valley card.
And then there's Gen X Ally Birdman.
Which makes sense as a Mist Valley card, and is also absolutely broken.
And can also come to 3 if they just ban Gallus.
Gallus? Which one?
Or whatever the other... I think Gallus is Starbeast FDK.
No. Gen X
Ally
Birdman. Gen X Ally Birdman would see play in other decks in interesting ways if they brought.
Yes, and that's what I want. Please give it back to 3.
That's true, but do you want like decks like Drytron to just be able to reuse their cards?
Doesn't Drytron specifically deal with cards that can't be normal summoned or set?
Oh, fair.
I don't think they could use that. I don't think they could use Birdman.
But what like fucking
Virtual World?
Virtual World get like infinite uses out of some cards.
I think when Birdman leaves the field, it does banish itself, I think.
Does it?
I'm pretty sure it does.
Actually, I don't think that would matter for Gen X.
You can return one, but banish it when he leaves the field. So yeah, Birdman banishes itself when it leaves the field.
That wouldn't be a negative for Virtual World, though.
It would mean they couldn't technically like unlimited reuse stuff unless they decided to use Lancia on their own turn.
Well, no, it wouldn't. That's not why it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter because like all they need to do is reuse their searcher one time.
Yeah,
like,
but Gen X deserves 3
return
Birdman.
The searcher, make like it would be more helpful than not.
I want to see what limited. I want to see what it would do at 3, but also Virtual World deserves nothing, so keep it at 1 for now.
Yeah.
And also, it's
Because they
limited
could
in the
just
OCG.
they could just return, was it like Lulu, and
I think
there
I
they
think,
have their searcher back,
I mean,
and they still have a tuner.
Virtual.
Like if they don't open a way to get Gigi to hand,
I think Lulu's a hard one to return.
Lulu's a hard one per turn, yeah, but you can use it again next turn.
I mean,
it gets a card back to hand in a deck that would like cards back to hand.
I mean, at least it's not friggin' Numerons.
Like remember, they run GG they run GG specifically because it adds a card from graveyard back to hand at the end of the turn. Imagine a card adding. Well, okay, let's not get into this. Thank you for the head pat.
Yeah. There's Gen X Ally Solid, which would if they didn't limit this to water,
be a good card.
If they didn't limit it to water, Gen X, monsters. Or if it wasn't limited to water, or if itself was water. They had so many ways to make this usable.
Or made it a spell card.
Or made it a tuner.
Get fair. Okay. So
also look at his fucking face. It's so angry. It's so angry.
Why the fuck am I knockoff Mega Man?
No, that's Duradark.
Fair.
Oh, Gen X Ally Triarm. Did you mean worm support?
A Gen X ally developed by the Ice Barrier and Mist Valley. It possesses a power reactor based on the R Gen X that's both compact and high powered.
This is a secret rare and Hidden Arsenal 4.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just, it's just like, most of the time it's just gonna have the dark tuner effect it has, or the non-tuner synchro material, the non-tuner dark effect is good. Mm-hmm. But it's also very specific. It's too Allied of Justice to be good.
Yeah.
And then there's Gen X
Justice Triforce. Or Gen X Ally Triforce.
Yeah.
Gen X Ally,
I mean, same thing.
I mean, same thing, more or less. A Gen X Ally developed soon after Triarm by the joint efforts of the X-Sabers and the Flameville. The weapon equipped...
This card attacks its Ancient Gear Golem.
The weapon equipped on its right arm can rotate, allowing it to adjust to the situation on the fly. Adjust the situations on the fly. The Allies sent Triarm and Triforce to the front lines, one after the other. The fabled assault against the Jirac reached its peak. With each passing day...
Triforce can literally just be worm support.
True. The Jirac lost more and more energy. The number of flames was reduced to half of what it was before the Fabled made their surprise attack. If things kept going that way, they would have been destroyed. So the Jirac made one final counterattack.
Yeah, it's a numbers thing, is what this is saying. The Jiracs were winning because it wasn't all of the Fables, and now that it's literally all of the Fables, they're getting fucked.
No. It's just that the Jiracs are like...
They're losing energy.
They're losing energy, so they outpower them, but the Fable just keep going.
Yep. And then there's Jirac Impact.
The remaining Jirac clustered and transformed their bodies into a giant blazing meteor that fell on their own nest. The fire and impact turned the entire area, as far as the eye could see, into a sea of flames.
Look at the art of Jirac Impact.
It's so dumb. I'm sitting out.
What a loser.
The Fabled were reduced to ash along with the nest. From the fire scorched remains, the Neo Flameville were born. The Neo Flameville were born from the Jirac just going.
The Neo Flameville
ramming themselves into a fucking.
So I guess the Neo Flamevilles are just what happens if the Jirac commits Sudoku. But look at the artwork of Jirac Impact. It's so dumb.
The fabled in the Jirac nest who weren't
so
obliterated by the impact started to flee. Every
Like,
man
I
for
didn't
himself.
think you'd actually do it, dude. Like the art of direct impact is just like them going, I didn't think you would actually kill all of us.
Like, bro, chill, bro, chill. It's just that one man. Hey, yo, chill, chill, chill.
What's your jet, bro? What's your jet, bro? What's your jet?
So, that's exactly what the look on these guys' faces. Just like the eyes popping out of their head.
They're screaming.
Like, oh shit, no, this is real?
And the best part is a fucking field nuke. It destroys everything on the field.
Alright, let's see. Oh yeah, the Neo Flameville are garbage though.
There's like two good Neo. There's two Neo Flameville
Like,
an unironically
Lady is
good.
okay.
Origin is really good on turn 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Lady...
the hearts of the Jirac, who lost their bodies, became part of the flames themselves and reincarnated as Neo Flameville. The Fire Tribe's thoughts awakened an ancient deity of fire and flames.
The ancient Flameville fat guy.
Which existed within a mythical age. Ancient Flameville deity, who had slept for eons, responded to the Fire Tribe's wishes and used its power to immolate the fabled left in the Jirac nest until there was nothing left.
And
not
with
even
that
ash
kind of
left
lore,
within it.
you would think it would
The
be a
card
sick
would
burn
be
card.
good, but
And it's just
fucking
mediocre.
not.
It's not even bad. It's just straight up mediocre.
Yeah. The seal of Trishula
It's
is
spell speed
undone.
1 DD Crow, but it can hit more than one card.
Many of the fabled were wiped out, but the remaining groups only intensified their attacks across the world. The seemingly endless conflict laid waste to the surface world and pushed its people into impoverishment and exhaustion. Having been driven to such a point, one faction among the Ice Barrier proposed releasing the third dragon. The Ice Barrier was internally divided over the matter, but they ultimately unleashed the dragon.
They unleashed Hydreigon.
Powerful individuals among the Ice Barrier gathered, carefully shattered the seal one piece at a time. The rituals and procedures continued, day and night over a month, until the entire seal was broken. The power of Trishula was terrifying and dreadful, and it destroyed all the fabled on the planet. However, the Ice Barrier lost control of the beast, and it went on to it went into a furious rage. The other dragons, as if in response, rampaged with it.
Oh hey, you just sealed your own fate by unleashing Triplehead.
Mirror of the Ice Barrier. They took every possible measure to reseal it.
And it didn't work. Actually, I think it did.
In the unlikely event that the Ice Dragons went on a rampage, DeLorean was to serve as a safety device.
What are you gonna do? Bounce it back to the extra deck?
But the Tiger King's powers didn't match that of the 3 Ice Dragons, and it couldn't stop the madness and frenzy.
And then we're at a new tab now, so I think it might be time for a couple of
No, I just want to get through all the lore, because there's so much of it.
I need to go grab some water, so like, you can keep reading if you want.
Alright, I shall keep reading.
I went out for a while.
Gotcha. Have fun.
I'm a bully. Shall I bully people?
During the Ice Barrier tribe's dispute over whether or not to release the Ice Dragons, 2 mages and childhood friends considered the alternative options. There was Natalia, whose family sided with releasing the dragons, and Noelia, whose family opposed releasing the dragons. Both of them sought to find something else to use in the place of Trishula. Resborg time. Nice to see you, Nesbit. The 2 had their eyes on demons called Steel Swarm, which had been sealed since ancient times. as a means to defeat the Fabled. They attempted a demon summoning technique derived from mystical arts, handed down to the members of the Ice Barrier through the generations. Their plan was to summon the demons and enslave them. The summoning ritual failed, as the two were unable to control the unexpected might of the Steel Swarm, and Natalia lost her life. Or Natalia.
Man, only one of them died?
The
Fucking rookie numbers, bump that shit up.
The failure of the ritual cost Noelia her best friend, and contaminated her mind with thoughts of the Steel Swarm. A mage, Natalia, a mage who was once the childhood friend of Noelia and mother of Gishki Advance. The regret of dying and leaving behind her young son caused her thoughts and spirit to remain in the living world. As the three dragons began to rampage out of control, the spectral entity Sacred Spirit, which had been watching over the ice barrier for generations, used a sealing technique at the cost of his being, successfully sealed all three of the dragons at the same time.
I'm back.
Welcome back. Long ago, the three dragons who ran rampant among the snow and mountains were sealed with a special method involving the mirror of the ice barrier. The prior found the ice barrier then, and his soul transcended to become the Sacred Spirit. At the end of the war against the Fabled, Noelia adopted several children of the ice barrier, of her ice barrier comrades who died in the war. Among them was Advance, the son of Natalia.
There's no D in there, I think. It's just
Advance. Sorry.
After the storm is kind of sad, though.
Yeah, true. After the storm is kind of sad.
It's also
kind of sad that some of these characters go on to become like Gusteau.
Major bad guys.
Major bad guys.
And after the storm is also sad in the fact that it's really fucking bad.
Yeah. Noelia, who
is the intended combo for this just a foolish burial on turn 1 and then get what you just foolish buried?
I think it's meant to be used as like a backup card.
No, but it's no other cards on the field.
True.
So your opponent can't have anything.
Noelia, who was being slowly corrupted by the thoughts and feelings of the Steel Swarm, changed into a completely different person and began researching into theretofore forbidden rituals. Once she completed her research, she began to educate the children she'd adopted as practitioners of the method. She broke off from the ice barrier, taking with her sacred artifacts. The sacred artifact, the mirror of the ice barrier. Thus began the Society of Forbidden Arts, Gishki.
And then there's Amelia just looking happy, and Advance looking like a teenager.
Yeah.
Advance is the teenager. Amelia is either completely dead inside or is genuinely enjoying her life.
At the moment.
Well, the remainder of her life.
Yeah. After Noelia finished modifying the mirror of the ice barrier, it became an artifact for controlling all sorts of rituals.
And then it became and then later it became Necros mirror.
Yeah.
Which I use in my Necros build, but also I have like 3 of every ritual spell in that build. And and I don't even use Kaleidoscope.
Why do you have 3 of every build? Why do you have 3 of every ritual spell?
Because it's Legacy of the Duelist.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
So
do you not have incantations?
I just didn't pull. I built it with cards I pulled from Alexis specifically.
Okay, so Joey has the incantations, and you should probably get them.
Yeah, I'll do that eventually.
The warlike Laval decided to invade the neighboring Gem Knight tribe to entertain themselves. The mild-mannered and preachy. Thank you for the raid, Austin. Hold up.
What do Lavals even do other than have a banned monster?
What do Lavals even do? They, like, send shit to the
They
graveyard?
do nothing.
They do stuff. Alright, go check out Austin. He's a great streamer. Good friend.
Mill and use other Lavals in the graveyard, so they don't do anything nowadays.
Well, they don't do anything nowadays, but yeah.
I don't think they did anything back then other than
Can I ask you
Laval
something?
chain.
Go ahead. The mild-mannered and preachy Gem Knights didn't launch a counterattack, but they did rise up against the repeated provocations in order to protect their comrades.
It's a defensive war. They don't need to
Yeah.
go. They don't need to counterattack.
Both of them are true. I don't know what you mean. Yeah. So standing and defensive amongst... Okay, so like Aquamarine was the first one to rise up. Have you read the Arc 5 manga? I have not read the Arc 5 manga. Meanwhile, Noelia began attempting to break the seal of the Steel Swarm.
So she's just trying to die.
At this point, she's just trying to fuck the world up.
Well, no, she's trying to die.
Okay. As the Lavals and Gem Knights battled, mechanical angels, Vylons, descended from the heavens to intervene and force an armistice. They began to intervene aggressively in other battles across the planet's surface. In response to the attacks of the Vylons, the Lavals and Gem Knights agreed to a temporary truce. Why didn't the Gem Knights just side with the Vylons?
I think the Vylons were attacking indiscriminately.
Okay, fair.
So
The manga has a weird and fucked up ending. Didn't the manga end with like the main heroine turning out to be the main character's mother or some shit like that?
the anime just ends with
No. The Arc 5 manga had like a really fucking sus ending.
The Arc 5 anime is also really fucking weird at the end.
That's true.
Like not even like
yes,
because
that's fucked up. Wow. Mechanical angels that I already read. Yeah, fuck. Vylons exist. During their battle against the Steel Swarm, the Constellars developed entities known as Vylon, whose bodies were meant to be impervious to corruption by the thoughts and feelings of the Steel Swarm.
Vylon Abstalon just looks like a fucking like scooter.
It kind of does, yeah. It looks like a moped. The feelings... After the Steel Swarm were sealed, the Vylons continued to observe the planet's surface. And their senses... And they sensed traces of the Steel Swarm activity within Noelia. In order to search for the source, they descended from on high.
Constellar Omega is unironically one of the better...
That's true.
Quick effect can make your entire Constellar board, and usually itself and Pleiades, immune to spell and traps for the turn.
BRB, alright. Wait, what? Yeah, the Arc 5 manga has a fucked up ending. The emerging power Gishki, led by Noelia, decided to try and seize the abundant resources that lay upon the exploited Great Mist Valley marshlands.
Where the Gusto live.
Where the Gusto now live, which are like, hi, we were once Mist Valley, then we were also once...
They're people who got cultured and went from stun to OTK.
Yeah, pretty much. Thus, they began an invasion to try to defeat the tribe that protected the Great Marshlands, the Gusto. By the way, I think the Dragoonity still exist at this point and just don't fucking do anything for the rest of the story.
I think they're fighting in other places actually.
Yeah. Oh, well, like the Ice Barrier, the Mist Valley, and Mist Valley became Gusto, but like the Ice Barrier still exists at this point. Like Gishki did not, Ice Barrier did not become Gishki.
Most of the Ice Barrier died from Trish, but
yeah,
some of them are still alive.
Same thing with like Dragoonity, but I think Dragoonity is just like
are just places. Occupied.
Mm-hmm. The invasion was so ostensibly launched so that the Gishki could obtain the natural resources from the Great Marshlands that would help stabilize its influence as a major player. However, the real goal of Noelia from the beginning was attacking the Gusto. was to obtain the power of God. Moreover, the Steel Swarm thoughts infecting her mind guided her subconsciously to begin the invasion. Nice to see you, DVSV Flood.
It's nice to see that they put the United States into Dual Terminal.
Oh my god, the cringe. It's the cringe made-up Dual Terminal lore. I mean, it's pretty much made up, yeah.
I think they had a story in mind for the worms,
it's
and then
implied by
everything past
Carter
the fables, it's just friggin' everything past the fables, or no, everything after the Worm War is just made up as it goes. But they had an idea for the worms.
Yeah, the worms is kind of there.
Like the worm arc makes sense.
I like the World Legacy lore because that's like all just there.
The Mech Knights were never the bad guys, except for when they were.
There was another reason behind the invasion of the Great Mist Valley Marsh. A hidden side. Noelia secretly searched for the Great Steel Swarm, who she considered her comrades. Secretly for the Steel Swarm, not the Great Steel Swarm.
Yeah, the Great Steel Swarm, that's a little bit of a misrepresentation.
Yeah. Knowing that they were sealed within the Great Marsh, she planned to use her allies to break the seal.
Noelia, what have you done?
Outstanding Dog Marin actually has some pretty decent lore, yeah. Outstanding
Dog Marin is kind of sad lore.
It is kind of sad lore, yeah. The Steel Swarm were freed from the seal of the Vylon and let loose upon the planet's surface. Their ravenous hunger caused them to immediately label everything in the marshland as food, and the predators began to eat their fill by feasting upon their Gishki allies, who had survived the invasion and broke the seal.
They're so hungry.
As the Steel Swarm rampaged, many more fell prey to them and were slain.
They're so hungry, they're eating.
It ties in with Skull Servant lore. Skull Servant has the weirdest lore.
Skull Servant lore is barely lore. It's just like it got popular, so we gave it.
We go
so we
on
decided
vacation.
to give it a life.
Yeah.
It's like Skull Servant got popular in Japan, so we decided to let him go on vacation.
Man, exactly. DT lore is very grandiose. World Legacy lore feels like an actual story. Exactly.
World Legacy lore is planned out. DT lore after Worms is not.
Yeah, fair.
And
well,
also Charmers are canon
like
in DT.
Gishki. I mean, like Gishki has like pretty detailed.
Also,
lore.
Charmers are in DT.
Which one?
Charmers.
Charmers are in DT. Good to know.
Yeah, because
have
the
like
Wind
nothing
Charmer,
to do with DT lore though.
One of them is well, the Wind Charmer is the sister of Winda.
And that's all that we know.
And then because the Wind Charmer is in DT, the rest of them have to be there too.
Yeah, but they do nothing for DT. Like
they
the Charmers
exist
lore
in DT.
is. I know, but they do nothing for the
like
grand.
That's why they exist.
I know, but they do nothing for the grand overarching.
Worse.
They do nothing for the grand overarching story. Now, do they?
They make it more incomprehensible.
That's true. Wait. Doesn't that mean that Gigabyte is in Charmer lore as well?
Don't. I already tried to friend link this together.
Doesn't that mean that like the fucking
DT lore is just normal Duel Monsters lore at this point?
Doesn't that mean that like, is it like Gigabyte is a form of like whatchamacallit, Gaga Gigo, right?
Yeah, and
so
that's a major
mean Gaga
player.
Gigo ties in with fucking
Yes, and
this
I've
is
already
so
tried
dumb.
to link
We're
this
stopping
together.
this conversation now.
Yes, please do. I've already tried to link that together.
The Steel Swarm inside of Noelia awakened when she delved deeper into the forbidden arts for a way to revive her friend. During an experiment, the daughter of Noelia, Amelia, lost her life in an accident. Yeah, this is an accident. I fucking doubt it.
Yeah, look at her. That's not an accident.
This is not an accident.
Face. Look at that face.
Red string time. No, we're not going into red string time. No, Animal. We are not going into red string.
We're
just reading the lore that the wiki says exists at the moment.
Look at the face on look at her face on Akira Mirror Illusion. This is not an accident. This is murder. look. She's dying. What are you doing?
Yeah. I wish we got a visual representation of how Advance became like the big thing. Having been caught off guard by the revealed the revived Steel Swarm, the Vylon captured some of them and reported their findings to the Constellar. Then they sent out the strongest machine angel, Vylon Omega, and began supporting the main forces of each of the major tribes in order to buy time for Omega to gather enough energy.
Oh, Vylon Horseshoe.
Worms gameplay versus Worms lore.
Worms gameplay, ya gone. Worms lore. Oh god, what are we doing?
Oh
How
god, what the fuck are these things? The Vylon who modify... Well, to be fair, none of the dual terminal decks like deal with like flipping. So it makes sense. This is a type of fighting that they've never seen
Allies
before.
of Justice technically does.
Okay, true. Yeah.
With one level 6 monster.
With one level 6 monster, but yeah. The Vylon who modified themselves to serve as equipment equipped themselves to the main forces of each tribe. This increased their fighting power, while also serving to protect them from being corrupted by the Steel Swarm. Ree's Wind of the Daigusto. That's really funny. Ree's Wind, Whirlwind of Gusto becomes Daigusto Freeze. I find that really funny because Daigusto Freeze requires you use Gusto monsters as material, I think, right?
One or more non-tuner Gusto monsters, and I think Sphere is a tuner.
Yeah, but Sphere is not a Gusto card.
It is a level 1 tuner though.
Oh,
so
fair,
you can
yeah.
Yeah, you can still make Freeze with Sphere.
When does my training arc begin? When I actually decide that we're gonna do a tournament.
Oh, you can make Freeze with Sphere and Reese.
Yeah, you can. Gemnite Crystal. Wait. Okay, you cannot make. Oh, you can make Gemnite Prismara with Vylon.
Crystal Prism.
Yeah.
But why would you do that when?
Yeah, but why would you do that when you could do anything else?
When you can just make Prismara with Tourmaline and
why did the Vylons help the Gishki? The Vylons should be killing the Gishki.
How? That's not even my main question. My main question is how did Noelia and Tetra turn into Tetra Ogre?
This is Gishki. We'll get to dual terminal decks that flip. Yeah, it's what's really funny? In dual terminal, flip equals evil. Laval Cannon into Laval Stent. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. How does Noelia and
also,
Tetra
I would like
turn
to
into
list
a fucking
of all the
reptile?
cards here. One of them is good, and it's Freeze.
Prismara is not half bad.
Tetra Ogre's not that bad, but it's also like not used in Gishki, so.
Prismara is a decent option in Gem Knights.
Prismara hasn't seen much play in Gem Knights.
Gem Knights have not seen much. Gem Knights are all FTK, but if you're not playing FTK, well, no, it's always been FTK, I think.
No. The FTK wasn't doable for a very long time until the.
Well, it wasn't consistent
until the Link came out.
Yeah, Prismara is a decent option if you're not playing Gem Knight FTK, because it's just removal, and if nothing else, it's another body in the graveyard for Master Diamond attack.
During the battle against the Steel Swarm, Noelia suffered serious wounds and nearly died. She retreated from the front lines. Finally, Omega gathered enough energy and was able to cut down the vast hordes of Steel Swarm covering the planet's surface. In a single attack. In a single decisive strike of divine judgment. The Steel Swarm were utterly defeated. Imagine a lore accurate deck. I feel like that's probably well, there is like one lore accurate deck that's like fucking
Shaddolls, if they were lore accurate, would be very annoying.
Nekroz and Shaddol.
Shaddol isn't lore accurate in my
Shaddol
opinion.
Isn't lore accurate? How so?
Like if Shaddol was actually like truly lore accurate, it'd be like a really annoying like take control of your opponent's stuff deck.
Fair enough, yeah.
I think
if any deck is lore accurate, it's Orcust. But Orcust isn't a dual terminal card.
Teller Knights, I think, maybe.
Teller Knights? Yeah, Teller Knights probably.
I mean, you can't really go like against lore when your entire deck is just rank 4 spam.
Yeah. Actually, Vylons are lore accurate. Here's why Vylons are lore accurate. They get their asses kicked by both Laval and Gem Knight.
But then
they're also bad unless you use an outside engine.
Well, not even outside engine.
Well, there's like one card that
Chaos.
Use in...
Yeah, Vylons suck until they start looping, which I guess can be said for Omega gaining injury, and then they make Omega.
Yeah.
And that's when they're not bad anymore, until they get Kaiju'd.
Mm-hmm. Noelia, who was on the side of the Steel Swarm, had feigned her true motives by siding with the Vylon camp, but she also desired to corrupt the Vylons by assimilating with their hive mind. Her scheme succeeded, and she managed to transmit the thoughts of the Steel Swarm among the Vylon.
Vylon Tetra,
Okay.
no!
Oh, yeah, that's how these guys came. Okay. After all the Vylon were corrupted, they went on a rampage. Guided by the machine-like purpose of making the entire surface world equal in uniform, they attacked every tribe. In response, the 4 tribes on the surface rallied together and formed an alliance. And a new fight began to repel the Vylon. Let's see. Oh, nice to see you, Big Dumber. Steel Swarm Roach is born from a piece of corrupted Vylon. A piece of a Vylon that was destroyed during a fight with the anti-Vylon alliance came into contact with a Steel Swarm that had secretly survived. The powers of light and darkness dwelled inside the fragment, brought about a sudden evolution in the creature that touched it, giving rise to a new entity, Steel Swarm Roach.
Otherwise known as Steel Swarm Sentinel, all grown up.
Isn't Steel Swarm Roach, like, not evil or something? I don't know.
Steel Swarm Roach isn't evil, and Advanced Zone, the art which depicts the transformation, is not good.
Yeah, the only good card that is good among these is Steel Swarm Roach.
Steel Swarm Sentinel's not that bad.
Steel Swarm... Ah, yeah, it's like a tribute card. Doesn't matter.
It's a, Actually, never mind, I take it back, it's pretty bad. It's, while this card is in face-up attack position, special summon level 5 or higher monsters on the field cannot activate their effects. I got it confused with 2 other Steel Swarms that were just bodies.
After Noelia was nearly fatally wounded and left the front lines of the war against the Steel Swarm, the Gishki had no one to lead their advance, so they paused it and joined forces with the other remaining tribes during the war with the Vylon. Hello?
Washer?
Oh, yeah. I'll get it.
I put it in the dryer.
Thank you.
For you so you can wash your laundry.
I completely forgot to do that when I started stream.
Put a timer on.
I will do that. Against the continued rampage of the Vylons, the 4 tribes awakened a new power called Xyz in order to oppose them, but the Sigma analyzed and absorbed their negative emotions, allowing it to absorb many warriors in return. 6 warriors were absolutely... Wait, Gus Kraken is not an Xyz monster. Oh, Marrowgeist.
Yes, it is.
Never mind. Yeah, Marrowgeist, I'm dumb. 6 warriors absorbed by the Sigma. Marrowgeist as an Xyz of the soul, Gishki, Amelia, and Musto. Gus Kraken.
Musto? Who's Musto?
I don't know who Musto is. Gus Kraken was the flesh and blood body of Amelia, sacrificed for a ritual that created a monster.
Oh,
Falcos, who was handled by Kamui, let himself be absorbed in order to save Kamui.
Gemini Pearl manages to defeat the Sigma. As one ally after another was absorbed, Pearl, a warrior associated with the Geminites who had no negative emotions, was able to bypass the Vylon and their sensors and inflicted fatal damage to the Sigma. There's Onmigami combo, an attack used by Pearl, a warrior who chiefly belongs to the peaceful Gemini tribe.
This is a Fist of the North Star reference. That or it's a JoJo reference.
I choose to believe it's the former, because I'm tired of JoJo references everywhere. Attacks continue with surging wings.
So you want your Discord role to be Uwu, Dumber? Okay, I can do that.
The Sigma balls. Thank you, Alduin.
Thus, all of the Vylons were defeated. The thoughts of the Steel Swarm had spread from Noelia and caused the Sigma to run out of control. But after its defeat, and with Noelia on the verge of death, they returned to her, and as a result, the Steel Swarm inside her mind awakened, causing her body to rapidly recover. Yeah, okay, got it. Upon the return of Noelia, the Gishki shifted back to their path of invasion. Their first step was to approach the Laval in plot to join forces, but their true intention was to replenish their fighting strength by absorbing them as sacrifices.
This guy gives Ritual's a bad name.
Yeah.
And ritual summons were already pretty bad, except for Gishki.
You already read the Naturia? We did already read the Naturia.
Yeah, we got past that.
At this point, the mind of Noelia was severely corrupted. She showed for the first time that she would use any possible means, no matter how barbaric, to achieve her goals. She restarted the invasion of the Gusteau by unleashing a deadly poison on the mighty wind that flowed from the Mist Valley to the marshlands.
God, there are
the
so
wind
many.
massacred most of the Gusteau as it spread over the entire marshlands.
Oh no.
Except, surprisingly, Kamui. Also Winda, I suppose.
Well, I think Kamui was at the Sigma fight, so she was
Kamui-
away from the Mist Valley.
Yeah, Kamui is a guy.
I don't know.
Kamui becomes...
Gender is fake, and
Kamui becomes the Ritual Beast Elder. Ritual Beast Tamer Elder.
And then Winda becomes so many forms.
So many different things, yes.
Winda's father, Windar, makes
Give
it
me a link to the website?
Windar.
Yeah, we'll drop a link to the website after we're done reading.
Windar.
We're just using Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's the Dual Terminal Master Guide.
Mhm.
Master Guide 4, File 3, and Master Guide 5 for World Legacy, or Master Guide 5 for the rest of DT.
The Gem Knights knew of the crisis of the Gusteau, and they rushed to save them. For there were people with the same desire for peace. As they were people with the same desire for peace. De Gusto Emerald, a new warrior born from fusion, managed to blow away... No, it's an Xyz monster, though.
It's an Xyz monster, and it's really good Neo support.
Managed to blow away the poison winds with their power. I would also
not
say
only
that it
is it
is both good in Gusteau and significantly better in Gem Knight.
And it's significantly better than both in Neos.
True. It's also, like, just good in general, so much so that it was fucking banned for a while.
And it's still limited.
It shouldn't be, but it is. It should be, actually. I mean, it's not
It should be. This is just...
It's soft once
if it's at any
so.
more than one, it's literally just an infinite loop. Of,
That
like,
is true, yeah.
Yeah, you can't really... Like, you can just loop... It needs to be a 1, and it's at 3 in the OCG, because any FTKs that would require it are too long.
Yes. In the face of the barbarity of the Gishki, the mild Gem Knights felt fury. The veteran warrior Crystal tried to optimize his fusion ability, ascending to the form of Zarconia, which represented his power's limits.
And neither of them have an effect.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's not getting an effect. He's not, like, trying to be, like, do a specific thing. He's just trying to be bulky.
You would think
Zarconia is bulky.
I mean, he's bulky, and he's not even a good target. He's not even... I don't even play him in my Gem Knight build.
Yo, Zarconia is really good. At least Zarconia was good when you were just... He was really good for the FTK variant, because you could just summon him and get 2 cards in the graveyard. So, like,
I don't even play I don't even play Lapis Lazuli.
Like, okay, he was really good because you could Brilliant Fusion him out and get, like, a Gem Knight card, so you could, like, Brilliant Fusion Gem Knight Obsidian or Lapis to do a search. And then send, I know, Lapis special summons one from the graveyard, right? Obsidian is the search.
No, Obsidian special summons from the graveyard if it's sent from the hand. Lapis adds a normal to your hand if it's sent to the graveyard.
Got it. From the graveyard, right?
Yeah, from the graveyard.
So it's just a good way to dump, like, a normal monster.
So Lapis was the Brilliant Fusion target for that.
Yeah, not Lapis Lazuli, just straight Lapis.
Yeah, I don't even run Lapis Lazuli. I don't run the burn one.
Lapis, what was the, okay, Lapis is the normal one, right?
No, Lazuli's the normal one, I think.
Lazuli, yeah. So you would send Lazuli if you activated it first, but if you activated Gem Knight Fusion first, you would send Lapis Lazuli. Or no, you would send Lapis.
You would whatever. It's a Gem Knight combo.
Yeah,
it just
it's
works.
Gem Knight, whatever.
Gem Knight combos shouldn't work, but they do.
All right. Even the gentle Gem Knight became controlled by hate. The surface world was filled with toxic emotions. As a result, the entity known as Evil Swarm, the embodiment of wicked thoughts, awakened. After Evil Swarm awoke, it possessed and animated corpses and wreckage littered throughout the Great Marshlands. The dead began to attack the living, and those who attacked became Evil Swarm themselves, causing the corruption to spread even further. I like how Evil Swarm cards are just worse versions of the cards themselves.
Not necessarily worse, just
a lot of them are.
Most of them are, but like,
I just watched the VOD.
What kind of idiot leaves a weapon of mass destruction just lying around? Why is Catastor in the Marshlands?
It's very early in the VOD. The Steel Swarm were hosts of Psychic Organism Evil Swarm. Got it. The Steel Swarm were creatures that the Steel Swarm were creatures that were compatible with Evil Swarmization and hosted Evil Swarm inside their bodies. But did the creatures that became their host come from another world, or did they used to be a species that existed on the surface? The truth is unknown. Interesting. The rapid spread of the corruption awakened Evil Swarm throughout the surface world into a period of confusion. It was at this point that the Constellar Knights of Salvation, mentioned in myth and lore, descended onto the world. They launched an all-out attack against the Evil Swarm in order to shatter the continually growing chains of evil thoughts.
And then here you see the only Constellar monster that was actually, like, decent.
The only Constellar monster... Well, no. What about M7?
Well, M7 is okay.
M7 is used
Pleiades is much better.
Pleiades is much better, yes.
Not just because of the Cook effect, but because you can use this effect immediately.
Isn't there a banned Constellar card? Hold up.
No, it's Tellarknight.
Oh, it's
Ptolemaeus is banned. Because it could rank up into Cyber Dragon Infinity.
Oh, yeah. So it's like Pleiades. Well, no. Diamond is okay, but it's
Tellarknight Constellar Diamond.
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
You know, you forget every now and then that these are technically one archetype, but actually not, because they don't work that way.
Yeah, no, these should just get support in the form of Teller support.
They really should. Constellar realized that they messed up with Vylon and had to clean up their mess, yeah.
The Vylon had been developed to oppose the Steel Swarm and observe the surface. The Constellars had received their notice that the Steel Swarm had revived, so they sailed forth to exterminate the Steel Swarm.
Faced with the deadlock between the wildly rampaging Evil Swarm and the advent of the Constellar, Noelia attempted to break the seal of the three dragons. However, the dragons had already been corrupted by the Evil Swarm. They revived as the most sinister and evil beings.
If the Evil Swarm can get into their seal, that's not a very good seal.
True. Noelia once again attempted to use the spell that had taken her best friend's life and succeeded in performing a ritual using the corpse of the Steel Swarm. Her body and mind were corrupted into rampaging alongside the Steel Swarm.
Don't put it like that. You took your own best friend's life. Willingly, Noelia.
No. That's not how that happened.
Amelia.
Oh, Amelia. Well, yeah.
I think that's what it's talking about.
No, that's not what it's talking about. They're talking about the one that took Natalia's life. Noelia, along with the other members of the Gishki, continued to perform forbidden magic. This time, using the corpse of Hercules. But those incapable of resisting its intense evil thoughts were instantly corrupted. And this became the form in which Hercules was revived.
Gishki level 10.
Yeah. Avance, desired above all else to revive Amelia, who had been completely erased with her body and soul absorbed by Desigma. Using a photo mirror, ritual art he had discovered in an ancient document, he attempted to resurrect the soul of Amelia. But his intense feelings for her caused the ritual to backfire and fail.
The most unrealistic part is that the document was still there.
The unstable mental state of Avance during the ritual caused the power of the photo mirror to rebound on him. He absorbed the soul of Amelia and revived in an incomplete form. This caused him to undergo a complete change into the uncontrollable monster Levianima, and lost his sense of self. He lost his sense of self and began to rampage. Constellar Cataster attacked Cyclone, who was indiscriminately attacking everyone in a blind rampage. While he managed to free Noelia from the will of Steel Swarm Cataster lost his life in the process.
Can you get an F in the chat for our boy Castor?
Yeah. Sorry, Castor. I said Cataster. My bad.
Well, that's the...
Yeah, I know. I'm dumb.
Constellar Meteor. He's just like, ah!
Yeah. Constellar Meteor is literally just Icarus attack, but yeah.
No, it's not. It's not. It's worse.
Fair.
Constellar Meteor is a battle trap.
Oh god, if
But
only it was Icarus attack.
No, it's a battle trap that only activates if your opponent's monster isn't destroyed.
Okay, wow.
It's really bad.
Wow. The evil swarm didn't fail to notice the fact that Castor had lost his life in a suicide attack. They began to immediately corrupt his corpse, creating Evil Swarm Castor, who wielded the powers of both light and darkness, i.e. the best Evil Swarm card, at least in the main deck.
That's Kirkion.
Kirkion? Oh yeah, fair. Kirkion's a little better. But Castor's better because he doesn't require setup. Kirkion is better in general, but Castor doesn't require the setup that Kirkion does.
Castor is also a level 4 Dark Warrior.
Yeah, which means he's searchable.
By too many things.
Yeah, which makes him better in my opinion.
I mean, Kirkion is objectively a better effect, but Castor is more easy to use.
It's just easier to use.
Yeah.
Noelia, who had recovered her sense, regretted the crime she had committed, and released the rampaging Avance from his spell. She decided to revive Amelia using her own soul as a sacrifice for the Aqua Mirror cycle.
You see, death doesn't matter.
Yeah, fair. In front of Noelia, who had sacrificed nearly all her life force, appeared Zealgigas. He had been drawn by the power of the ritual. She defeated him using her remaining life. Wow! Rip for Zealgigas, supposed to be the strongest thing that Gishki has to offer. Got killed by a main deck level 4. My
That was
God.
already dying.
That was already dying. Fuck.
Rest in peace to
God,
Zealgigas, but I'm built different.
Rest in peace, you piece of shit.
Rest in peace, but thanks for the draw.
Yeah. She defeated him using her remaining life and entrusted her 2 children from birth and adoption with the Aqua Mirror before drawing her last breath.
And Spellwall as a card, it's just Dark Magician support, but they didn't limit it to Dark Magician.
Yeah, fair.
You can't negate. You can only activate one of the effects on it, so you either prevent anything from being done to a spellcaster type when it's summoned and it can't activate effects in response, or when it is summoned, or you turn one of your spellcasters into Ancient Gear Golem.
Gotcha. The transformation of Castor into an evil swarm alongside the infection of the 3 dragons pushed the Constellar into a crisis. In that state they united with the Gem Knights, who shared their sense of justice. A new soldier, Seraphinite, was born from the fusion of Virgo and the warrior who controlled the power of the heavens, Lazuli.
I don't agree with this effect based on the 2 canon fusions, but I really like the effect regardless.
Fair, yeah.
Like a double normal summon is great, but I don't think that's the effect that would make sense lore-wise.
Castor was an elder brother and Pollux the younger. They had taken down many enemies together throughout their lives, using their synchronized team attack. But after the corruption by the evil swarm, the elder brother turned his blade on the younger. The two struck each other simultaneously with equal power. The evil swarm tried to use this unique opportunity to corrupt Pollux as well.
This is a lie. Pollux is weaker than Castor by 50 points.
Fair. The Gem Knight touched the souls of these two valiant heroes, reviving them before they were completely corrupted by the evil swarm. With the help of Constellar
Vrasahog?
Vrasahog, yeah. Seraphonite had her power amplified and the revival succeeded. The Constellar witnessed the power of fusion the power of fusion of the Gem Knights and became aware of the hidden depth within themselves to unite their stars and unleash. The seven chosen Constellars became the divine dragon of legend and faced off against the evil swarm in the final decisive battle.
And when you summon it like a normal person would, you can't even use its effect. Because you can't use the bounce when it's ranked up.
Sadly.
And it's also not a quick effect bounce, so it sucks.
It's only good in Virtual World. Before the ultimate decisive battle with the evil swarm, the power of the seven Constellar who became Ptolemy resonated with the Ptolemy? Okay, Ptolemy.
Yeah.
Resonated with the power of the seven cores that had gathered as the cores of Zirconia. Thus, the strongest warrior, Gem Knight Master Diamond, was born.
Otherwise known as FTK Enabler.
Yes.
Except
the skies above Mist Valley. In the skies above Mist Valley, the strongest trump card of the Constellars and the most diabolical dragon of the evil swarm began their battle with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Many neighboring areas were decimated from the impact of the fierce battle. All the while, the divine wind of Mist Valley, which had been witnessed many times in the past, began to form around the two dragons.
An Xyz Soul is just an attack booster that recurs a single Xyz monster. And Ptolemy M7 is stronger than Pearl, so that sacrifice was not needed.
No. Pearl revived Ptolemy.
No, Pearl protected Ptolemy.
Yeah, fair. As M7 fought the Dark Dragon, the Gem Knight swept away the vast majority of the low-level evil swarms. The divine wind flown out from the Mist Valley marshlands and filled the surrounding region that had become a battlefield. It breezed gently over the Mist Valley and seemed to attract the shrine of Mist Valley.
Something, and then you do everything. You FTK.
Yeah. The divine wind began to swirl at the center of the Mist Valley, drawn to the center of its altar, where a deity was enshrined with in a great stone. The god there, disappointed by the world that was drowned in war, decided to purify the surface world.
Sophia, the goddess who created many of the life forms on the planet. Major symbols and designs from each tribe can be seen on her body. The only part of her body visible at the shrine of the Mist Valley is her head, which looks really dumb. What is this, like a...
The altar was destroyed, and from it the giant goddess of rebirth, unwilling to let the desolation of the surface world continue, she decided to annihilate every living thing on the planet in order to purify it. In her hands, she held 2 crystallized embodiments of power, which could destroy every living thing in the world and create a new one. The tribe members who stood before her on the front lines were obliterated by her overwhelming power. It seemed like it was only a matter of time before the entire world was annihilated.
From the crystallized power of creation in her left hand, she created an endless horde of soldiers, her children, which surged with overwhelming numbers. Their forms were similar to those of the existing surface tribes.
Can we get a Sophia archetype?
Can we get, like, at minimum, can we just get, like, the other Sophia cards mentioned, like the children?
Yeah.
And the crystallized power of destruction in her right hand emitted a light that erased every living thing it touched, instantly and all at once. It went beyond physical destruction. It broke down a being's very existence to create new life.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like Thanos.
The damage to the core of Diamond began to exceed sustainable limits and became impossible for him to continue fighting. Knowing this, he entrusted his powers to Lazuli and Virgo. The 2 of them attempted to use the power to fuse with all of the Constellar. Lazuli fused with the 12 Constellars of the Zodiac. Rasig, the warrior of... warrior of...
I don't know. Orpheus?
Had other intentions as he exempted himself from the fusion.
I forgot what Razzlehag even does, but I don't care enough to scroll back up.
Unable to resist the incredible fusion energy that came from the 13 beings, the crystal that contained the power of creation, Sophia, was dragged into and incorporated into the fusion, and created the ultimate warrior, who not only had the power of the stars but the power of God. Sombre, the warrior of hope, Constellar Sombre, wielded power equal to that of a god. In order to save the surface world from doomsday, she faced Sophia in the ultimate decisive battle. Rasahag intentionally kept himself out of the fusion, aiming instead for a fusion that only Ophiuchus could perform. Because they were corrupted in
state, they couldn't resist use of their seal. Unlike the other evil swarm, Rasahag speculated they still had life energy left.
With the mirror of the ice barrier that was transformed into the aqua mirror in hand, the 2 Gishki youths ran to the aid of Rasahag as he was struggling to control the 3 dragons. But thanks to the power of the aqua mirror, his fusion succeeded. As Rasahag absorbed the power of the aqua mirror along with the three powerful dragons, the entity also ended up absorbing the crystal of power, the crystal of the power of destruction that lay in the right hand of Sophia. The soldier of Twilight was born, who possessed 4 forces of destruction, 3 from the dragons and 1 from God herself, as well as the healing power of a Constellar. The power of light and darkness collided within his body, and the power of God herself was superimposed onto them, giving rise to the ultimate warrior of darkness, Evil Swarm Kirkion. He joined the final... Yeah, which is funny. He joined the final decisive battle to support the light of hope known as Sombre, and in order to defeat the planet.
Constellar Sombrero and Evil Swarm Kek fighting Sophie.
Yeah.
At school.
In order to defeat Sophia, who was temporarily weakened by her 2 powers being stolen, Sombre and Kirkion faced her in a final battle. After several days of non-stop combat, they pierced and broke the orb in her hand that severed the source of the power of God, banishing her from the surface world. Alright, you continue. I'm gonna go eat something real fast.
Okay. I'm gonna
go grab something to eat real fast.
Okay. After banishing Sophia, Sombre and Kirkion themselves vanished from the face of the surface world. Perhaps they were guided by the power of Sophia inside them. Meanwhile, those who survived began to reconstruct the surface world, living and carrying on as the traces of God vanished. After Sombre and Kirkion vanished, those who survived the Great War reached past their own tribes and worked together. They began reconstruction in and around the vast and still resource-rich Mist Valley marshlands. With God no longer able to help or harm them, what kind of world awaits those willing to forge a future with their own strength? The children of Noelia were trained in all sorts of advantage, and the youngest members of the Gusto, including those saved by Noelia, were the guardians of the great marshlands. Those with key relationships to Noelia had strange beginnings. They spread their knowledge to others who'd survived, and in this way they became the driving force behind the world's reconstruction. And then there's Amelia and Vance, and the survivors of the Gusto are Reese and Kamui. Duelist set stock cases. It's just the creation of Constellar Sombre, who finally appears to struggle and tear apart the cycle of creation and destruction caused by Sophia, goddess of rebirth, thus escaping the fate of endless reincarnation. What became of Sombre is mentioned in the Dark Returner epitaph below. Whosoever created by Sophia shall return to Sophia, but whosoever unbounded shall not resist thou fate. Then thou shalt gain the will of the light. Epitaph hints that after the goddess of rebirth was repelled, dead Kirkion and alive Sombre defeat the Terra Sophia together, and then after destroying her cycle of reincarnation, they represent the seeds of new life on a planet. This is the epitaph that suggests the story after the parts mentioned in the Lightning Returner epitaph. Dead and alive swear annihilation of the Terra. They shall cut the Nemesis and shall become the seed of the new Terra. Then darkness shall bring the will of the light.
Do we need to talk about this stuff? I feel like we don't need to talk about this stuff.
Yeah, this is all just like everything here is just like lore about
this is just
individual
background.
tribes.
Yeah, we can skip the rest of this. Is everything below just background about the individual tribes?
I believe so.
Yeah, let's skip this actually. Yeah. This is all background.
Wait.
Yeah.
This is I think the Evil Swarm. I think the Evil Swarm one might be worth reading.
You think so?
Yeah, it's kind of neat.
Let's get to the Evil Swarm one then.
The world's third age, X day of the month of Mist, the corruption begins. There's a report from a week ago about something strange happening at the remains of an ancient Mist Valley battlefield. Those who fell in the Great Worms...
I know I'm just commenting on this hot, but they super poly for a game is probably the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in relation to dual terminal lore. You're gonna get... I'm gonna give you... I'm definitely gonna give you fucking VIP for that one, hot.
Those who fell in the Great War against the Worms that happened so long ago, the mechanical dolls known as the Allies of Justice and the Gen X, past heroes of Mist Valley, all of them were taken over and corrupted. And yes, even the fallen corpses of Worms ended up corrupted too. Evil Swarm Azathoth. And Xth day of the month of fire, the multiplying Evil Swarm. As the battles against the strange life forms called the Evil Swarm went into full swing, the tribes united to fight the menace. We fought valiantly, but those who fell to the enemy were corrupted, joining their ranks and further strengthening their forces. It seems that even among the strongest among us, the Gem Knights and Gusto, have already become their prey. Which, actually, wait, Heliotrip looks dumb, but Xth day of the month of forest, the end of everything. The 3 dragons have been released from their seal, but they've already been corrupted by the Evil Swarm. It's likely that the world will fall to ruin by their power, which seems to have gotten stronger from sheer malice.
You know what I've realized?
What?
Evil Swarm Thanatos is 2 cards. It is a Gem Knight plus
and it's the Fabled Unicorn.
A Fabled card, which is funny.
I think it's Fabled Unicorn.
The Fabled Unicorn.
I mean, infected corpses. Even the Constellars armed with the Will of Heaven.
By the way, I know that there's a point redeem for VIP, but I never mentioned this. Another way to earn VIP in chat is just fucking make me laugh. Like, if you post something If you post a comment and it fucking kills me, you will get VIP.
Had some of their number end up corrupt. Is there any hope left for this world? No. The story ends here as the diary's owner suffered a terrible fate due to the infestation of the evil swarm. Although we lost everything in the plague of the evil swarm, the survivors must bring back this world that nearly teetered into the abyss of destruction.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
And then we move on to
Master Guide 4, File
Master
3.
Guide 4,
And
which is the tiniest thing, but
tiny.
my name is Steel Swarm Roach. During the last Great War, I managed to leave the cycle with a tremendous power. The last war's great final battle pitted the fate of every living being against the planet's creator goddess. I'm going to talk briefly about the events on the surface world that followed that
Actually,
battle.
wait. I think I just found the link between regular Duel Monsters lore and DT lore, and it's a fucking anime card or Zexal. It's Zexal, and it's called Battler's Pride, and it has Light Ray Greffer.
Got it.
Along with Evil Swarm O Lantern, Steel Swarm Mantis, and 2 Evil Swarm Heliotropes.
Alrighty. The Planet Forged. The Planet Forged wanted to destroy the world and recreate. The Planet Forger wanted to destroy and recreate the world in an endless loop until her ideal world was formed. All life on the planet gathered to stand against her. Finally, by the actions of the 2 warriors who'd obtained just fragments of her power, she was defeated, and a new age began on the surface world. Barry, you're already VIP, yeah? Alright, let's see. I was originally a sealed demon, but one day, due to contact with a power that was not from this planet, I ascended to a higher level of being that stood outside the cycle of reincarnation. Too bad I'm also a bad card that no one uses.
Actually, it's Steel Swarm Roach.
Except in Duel Links for whatever reason. He was used. I know he was used.
He's not even that bad, except he's terrible because he's not solid on legs.
Yeah. Ever since I've been guided by that power to live a very long life as the observer to the path the world will take. After defeating the Planet Forger, Sombre and Kirkion bade farewell to those who remained. I don't know where they headed off, but fragments of the planet. I'm gonna read this in a different voice. But fragments of the Planet Forger resided within them. But the fragments of the Planet Forger that resided within them probably led them to watch over the surface world somewhere out there. Due to their vast knowledge, the Gishki youths, Advance and Amelia, played a central role among the youngsters tasked with building the new world. They fought together with the 2 warriors. And they came to say their goodbyes before the 2 left the surface world for good. In the deepest reaches of the Naturia Forest, rests the World Tree, whose roots said to reach the planet's very core. The tree's overflowing planetary powers allowed me to reach a new level of evolution. And after Leodrake, the sacred tree beasts, the sacred beast's guardian, guarding the World Tree, obtained the new planet's power like me. He gained the form of the king of the Naturia Forest, Leo. Steel Swarm Roach VTuber when?
When the Ojama Line
why does Steel Swarm Roach's retelling sound like a VTuber backstory? I don't know, but it's really good.
Because it is.
The Great Marshlands are home to many tribes. Pilica was born into a lineage of the chief of the tribe that protected the marshlands. The staff she holds was passed down from generation to generation, and the statue at its tip was carved by its previous owner, Kamui, as a memento of his partner who fell in the Great War. Pilica, descendant
talking about
of
Legend
Gusto,
441.
descendant of Reese and Kamui. It seems the core of crystal, which had stopped functioning after the Great War, began overloading due to the forced multiple fusions he endured. The core absorbed all light and took on an ominous form. Something like this has never happened before. Maybe this has something to do with the ominous feeling that I've been getting lately. And that's the end of that one.
Yep, that's just a little bit of extra lore.
Yep.
Then we have Master Guide 5, which is
When will Rez be corrupted by the Steel Swarm? That won't happen. And then this one's a little long because it's just story.
This is just
but half of it.
then.
You know what's funny is half of it is like fucking already explained.
Actually,
no, never mind.
no. All life rooted on the planet has its origins in the Naturia sacred tree. The energy radiating from the sacred tree spreads throughout the earth and is granted new life as it takes the form of any and all newborn creatures who draw breath upon the land. When these creatures die, the energy goes back through the earth into the sacred tree. This is the system of reincarnation, or regulating the flow of life and death in this world. Essentially, the sacred tree is a combination of two different types of reincarnation systems, known as Sephiroth and Qliphoth, and the executives of these systems were Sophia, goddess of rebirth, and Tierra, source of destruction. Sophia regulated the power of creation, while Tierra regulated the power of destruction. However, in the Battle of the Gods and Times MMO, Sophia managed to overcome Tierra, obtaining sole directive over the system of sacred tree. Using the power of creation and destruction, the victorious Sophia accessed the sacred tree, creating a core to steal Tierra within the sacred tree. To make sure that core could never be used again, Sophia broke it into 10 pieces and scattered them within the organisms in a land far from the sacred tree. Those pieces later became the Pyroxian of the Gemnites.
So
I'm Gemnite Pyroxian fusion? With Tierra sealed, the only way for organisms on the surface to prosper was through Sophia. Even so, Tierra had no thoughts of giving up trying to seize control of the world. After spending unmeasurable aeons interfering with the life energy being recycled back into the Sephiroth and turning it into life energy for the Qliphoth, Tierra slowly regained some of its power. Seizing the chance as Sophia fell in battle against the surface life forms, Tierra began planning its advent on the surface world once more.
I just realized I've been fucking lied to. Tierra, the Duel Terminal card, and Tierra, the Infernoid card, have no fucking relation.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong? Wait, where are the Infernoid?
We'll get there. The first step would be reactivating the Qliphoth, while the second...
I am in fact wrong. I just realized that they're all the way down here. I was scrolling to see if I could find the Infernoids, and I didn't see them.
While the second step would be regaining the 10 cores to remove the seal suppressing its powers. The final part of the plan would have Tierra obtain the power of creation and destruction and complete its revival. And so this former deity began to put its dark machinations into action.
Constellar Sombre, an evil swarm Kirkion, who had obtained the power of Sophia from the previous war, noticed their powers of creation and destruction seemed to have been interfered with by an outside source. Thinking that this might be a sign of revival, of the revival of Sophia, in the process of searching for truth behind this development, they descended upon the Naturia sacred tree, where for the first time in decades they met with friends from their past, Naturia Leodrake and Steel Swarm Roach, as well as the Ritual Beast and Necros, who had protected this land since the previous war. Had all noticed the same strange disturbance, and gathered once more as comrades in arms, firmly believing that the disturbance was related to the sacred tree, Sombre and Kirkion gave up parts of their power of creation and destruction, each to Leodrake and Roach, powering them up to protect the sacred tree and prevent further future threats. Parting with Kirkion and the others at the sacred tree, Sombre scoured the land in search of powerful ley lines with life energy, where life energy overflow, in order to awaken the power needed to protect the planet from a new threat. Using her power of creation, Sombre used the 7 Pyroxian passed down from Gemknight Master Diamond and the 8 Pyroxian from her previous incarnation as Gemknight Seraphonite, and the 8th to create Yang Zing. The true goal of Sombre was to break the seal of the Naturia sacred tree and gain access to the Sephiroth system by using the life energy of Sophia, Goddess of Rebirth, coursing through the land to materialize the Yang Zing. The Sephiroth began the life system of Sophia itself. The Sephiroth, being the life system of Sophia itself, would allow Sombre to prevent the revival of Sophia, should she gain control of it. But in order to do so, Sombre would require a total of 9 Yang Zing materializations. So she gave birth to 8 Yang Zing. So after giving birth to 8 Yang Zing, Sombre resumed her travels around the world, searching for a new ley line to materialize into the 9th and final Yang Zing. Also, this means that the Gemknight became Yang Zing cards. I would like to note that apparently the Yang Zing are the reincarnation of the Gemknights, according to this lore.
And here comes the Shaddolls.
Which actually makes a lot of sense now that you think about it.
Here comes the Shaddolls. Meanwhile, Evil Swarm Kirkion heard a rumor that a hero of the last war, Gemknight Master Diamond, had revived, but had also attacked several individuals. He headed towards the Mist Valley Great
isn't
Marsh.
The worst archetype in the game. It's just not the best archetype in the game either.
Yang Zing are nowhere near the worst archetype. What are you talking about?
Viacroid exists.
I mean, so does Worms.
Fair.
He headed towards the Mist Valley Great Marshlands to find out the truth, but what he witnessed there was his former comrade, nearly unrecognizable, in the form of Cairn Gorgon, Anti-Luminescent Knight. Cairn Gorgon wielded the horrifying power of absorbing souls from the living, leaving their bodies as empty shells. Hoping to end this situation before any more victims were created, Kirkion bravely fought alone. However, he was unable to bring himself to use his full power against a former comrade and friend, and was ultimately absorbed by Cairn Gorgon. The power of destruction of Kirkion strengthened Cairn Gorgon tremendously, mutating it into Shaddol Core.
So Kirkion went out like a bitch. Good to know.
Shaddol Core then gave birth to those who lost their lives in the previous war, the Shaddol. The true forms of the Shaddolls are those who have lost their lives and were supposed to return to the sacred tree to be reborn again through the life energy of Sophia. However, they were trapped by Tierra while inside the sacred tree and imprisoned inside the vacuum tubes of the Infernoids. Over time, their life energy began to change from those of Sophia to those of Tierra, which caused the system of the sacred tree to treat them as bugs, spawning them to the world with only their bodies. In this form, they barely have a consciousness, but instead hold an innate desire to return the sacred tree so they can be reborn correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Shaddol army began their advance in the direction of the sacred tree. Sensing the plight of Kirkion with her power of creation, Sombre led the Yang Zing to the Mist Valley Great Marshlands to stop the assault of the Shaddolls. Although the Yang Zing fought valiantly, Suani, Fire of the Yang Zing, and Pulau, Wind of the Yang Zing, both had their shadows stolen and were turned into Shaddolls. The remaining Yang Zing stood their ground, but were quickly driven into a corner by the Shaddolls.
Alright. In the hour of danger of the Yang Zing, light of Qinwen, light of the Yang Zing, a new Yang Zing came falling from out of the sky. Qi-Wen was materialized by Sombre after she gathered up all of the star energy, still drifting in the heavens. As such, It has a different origin than the other Yangzing. Due to this, Qi Wen holds the power to connect, the power of connecting the stars, the very same power wielded by the Constellar. During the previous war, by unleashing this power, it gathered up and combined all of the Yangzing, including those that had already been turned into Shadals, evolving into Baxia, brightness of the Yangzing. As if in resonance with the birth of the divine dragon Baxia, brightness of the Yangzing, the power of Qi Wen, light of the Yangzing, by the power of Qi Wen, light of the Yangzing, warriors of light descended from the brilliant stars in the sky. They are descendants of the Constellars, the brigade of saviors that fought to save this planet in the previous Great War. Constellar Sombre being herself a result of the fusion of the 12 Constellar heroes, released the power of the 12 constellations. The 12 constellation rings from herself and returned them to the new warriors. The warriors of light, upon regaining that power, turned them into the Tellerings, and transformed themselves into the Teller Knights, the protectors of the planet. With new power, the warriors headed towards the battlefield to confront the Shadals. I like how there's 5 Teller Knights and 12 Constellars, and there are 5 Teller Knights because 2 of them are Kirkion and Sombre.
And look at Curse of the Shadow Prison. Unukal is not having a good time. He's terrified.
Mm-hmm. The battle between the Teller Knights and Yangzing Alliance and the Shadals were fierce. In the midst of the turmoil, all 8 Yangzing turned into Shadals. Meanwhile, Yangzing got fucked. Meanwhile, Teller Knight Unkala, who wields the power of the constellation Serpent, suddenly sensed there was a sliver of power within the shadows captured by the Shadals that was similar to his own. It was none other than the power of the constellation Ophiuchus, wielded by Kirkion, who was absorbed by Shadal Core. Unkala tried to free Kirkion, but by the overwhelming power of Shadals, he ended up getting restrained instead. Oh, I realized. Oh, never mind. Sensing preparedness of Unkala to die, just to free him from within the shadow, Kirkion also tried to fight back. However, his power of destruction suppressed by Shadal Core. The struggle was to no avail, and Unkala was captured by the shadow and turned into Squamata. I reiterate that Shadal Squamata is a Teller Knight's head, repurposed to be a lizard.
I think it's his armor.
I think it is his armor, yeah. At that moment, Kirkion used the shadow of his staff from the shadow, entrusting to the Teller Knight still fighting outside, wielding the staff's power. Stellar Knight Deneb amplifies the power of connecting the stars that Teller Knights possessed, and evolved into Stellar Knight Dendros, together with Stellar Knight Altair and Stellar Knight Vega. Following the Super Stellar Nova Alpha, Stellar Knight Dendros called out more Teller Knights down from the sky. The greatest error the Teller Knights made was allowing Shadals to obtain the power of connecting the stars themselves by absorbing Stellar Knight Unkala. The Shadow Army used that power to fuse Squamata and Bixi, the water of the Yangzing, which also turned into a Shadal, and Jiaotu, the darkness of the Yangzing, into Jiaotu, the darkness of the Yangzing, a Yangzing with the power of connecting the stars. They further fused into Jiaotu, with the Shadalified Tatui, shadow of the Yangzing, changing them into Yazi, evil of the Yangzing. At this point, the war which started with the Tellarknight Yangzing alliance against the Shadal had become one of the Tellarknights facing both the Yangzing and Shadals with no way out in sight. After obtaining the power of connecting the stars, the Shadals gathered up 8 Pyroxian inside of the Yangzing, and the Pyroxian belonging to Gemnite Lapis, residing inside of resting inside of El Shadal construct, to the anti-luminescent stone belonging to Cairn Gorgon inside Shadal core. Obtaining the power of 10 cores, Shadal core evolved into El Shadal Gristia. Which is funny because Gristia is weaker. Following the will of the scheming Tiara, source of destruction, to revive itself into Gristia and begin attacking the Naturia sacred tree.
Not the tree.
Mm-hmm. Although the situation was starting to improve for the Tellarknights with Dendros at front and center, the attack of the Shadals, which left every life form around them, turned into more Shadals, proved to be a desperate battle. In the end, Sirius also turned into a Shadal to prevent the body of Sirius from being used like how Unkala was used for Shadal Squamata. Beltgest used his Tellerring to amplify his power to connect the stars and fuse the two of them into Proclon. Two of them plus Procon. To form Tellarknight Trivier. Don't turn my sacred tree into firewood.
But I want to.
Even with the power of two Tellarknights in Deltaros and Trivier, they were no match for the El Shadal construct in Gristia, who were forced to retreat from the Mist Valley marshlands, retreating to the Naturia sacred tree. The Tellarknights were met with those who gathered to protect the sacred tree, borrowing the powers of Evil Swarm Exiton Knight Leo, the keeper of the sacred tree, Ritual Beast, and Necros. They set up a barrier around the sacred tree as a final line of defense.
Final battle of the sacred tree. The Tellarknight, Ritual Beast, Alliance, and the Shadals finally clashed at the barrier of the sacred tree. The Allied forces fought valiantly as both individuals and as a unit, successfully impeding the advance of the Shadal forces. With the resistance of the Allied forces, Tiara was unable to breach the barrier and begin a new plan. It sought to capture one with the great spiritual powers and turn that person into a Shadal. And so Ritual Beast Tamer Wen was targeted by the Shadals and turned into El Shadal Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
Ritual Beast Tamer Wen was born with great spiritual powers, but this caused fear in those around her, and she was eventually abandoned by her parents. She was picked up by the elder of the tree of the Ritual Beast Tamers and raised like sisters with Pilica, descendant of Gusto. She usually has her eyes closed in order to suppress her great spiritual powers, which she greatly detests.
Mm-hmm.
With the help of those gathered around the sacred tree, the Tellarknights succeeded in taking down El Shadal Grista. However, while this was happening, El Shadal Wendigo destroyed the barrier according to the machinations of Tiara machinations. And El Shadal Winda finally made it to the sacred tree. After making contact with the sacred tree, Winda used the divine aura within itself to gain access to control system of the sacred tree, booting up the Cleafort system, sleeping within it as willed by Tierra. El Shaddai Winda was Winda, priestess of Gusto. In life, she died when her body was assaulted by the divine aura of Sophia, goddess of rebirth, during its revival due to her proximity to the event. A very crucial part to the revival of Tierra is that of the power of Sophia, which was needed to gain access to the sacred tree. To compensate for this, Tierra purposefully revived her.
Mm-hmm.
Underground, hidden beneath the sacred tree, lie the Cleaforts and the Cleafoth system, which shields Tierra. At the contact with Winda, the seal had been broken, and the sacred tree ripped itself up from the ground, floating into the sky. In the face of such an overwhelming event, even with the Tellarknights and those gathered at the sacred tree present, nothing could be done to stop it. At the same time, a change was also happening at the remains of the supposedly defeated El Shaddai Grista. The 10 cores emerged from within Grista and were absorbed by the sacred tree. The 10 cores absorbed by the Cleafoth system turned into energy source cores, finally booting up the Cleaforts. The activated Cleaforts did not even spare a passing glance at the lives on the surface, but rather tenaciously went after the Shaddals to eliminate or restrain them. Cleaforts were originally entities that maintained the balance of the Cleafoth life system of the sacred tree, and to them, the Shaddals, which were born from the Sephiroth system, but who now have their souls in the Cleafoth system, while still maintaining their bodies from the Sephiroth system to move about, are nothing but alien elements that must be eliminated, as they are life that should not be, and an existence that cannot be tolerated. Although the Cleaforts are powerful, the power of El Shaddai construct was still too great, and so they combined with the surface life. Evil Swarm Kirkion fought to suppress the Shaddals from within, while Deltaros gathered the staff and power it obtained from Kirkion and Apocleafort towers, and with a double suppression from inside and outside, construct was finally stopped. However, the threat was still far from over, and fearing the restraints breaking, the Allied forces, with advice from Kirkion, urged Shurit, strategist of Necros, to use the spiritual power of the 3 Ice Barrier dragons in himself to create a seal, freezing El Shaddai Kinga in place and completely incapacitating it.
Obviously, they used Dancer of the Ice. Or was it Dancer? Was it Spirit Dancer of Necros or something like that? The
Dance Princess, I think.
Yeah, Dance Princess of Necros as well. Because one of these is an evolution of Dance Princess of Necros, which is Gungnir.
Gungnir.
Mm-hmm.
And then Trishula and Briannak are also there.
Yeah.
The Shaddals, now little more than an aimless mob, were being systematically eliminated by the. However, as Cleafort Scout restrained and absorbed Winda, the situation was turned completely on its head. After absorbing a being with the same aura as a god, that administrative privilege allowed access to the power of Tierra, which was split up and sealed inside of the Cleaforts. Under the control of Tierra, Winda released the seal and revived the Infernoids, the vanguards of the gods.
We're not reading the Cliffort text.
Replica mode. Blah,
We're
blah,
not
blah.
reading the Cliffort text.
You can read it. You can pause the VOD to read it yourself.
Yeah, like there's a lot here. We started skipping a lot anyway. We might as well skip the Cliffort text. Finally released from their seal after an immeasurable amount of time, the Infernoids acquired the vacuum tubes.
It's outdated tech.
Which the Clifforts use to capture the Shaddals inside themselves. To regain the power they have lost. To sweep away the Clifforts and the surface life forms interfering with the revival of Tierra, the Infernoids began to flood the entire world with flames of purgatory. Meanwhile, after coming into contact with El Shaddai Winda, the Clifforts came to realize the existence of a life with the same aura as a god. An impossibility. Registering this as a fatal error, the system of the Nichiria, the life system of the Nichiria sacred tree, the Clifforts, started executing the elimination of all life on the surface world to purge and purify the world. I'm not reading the I'm not reading the text of fucking that either.
I'll read it. It's not that long. Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil, and now lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. God is angry on your doing and want to bring the fire flood.
Mhm. To take on not only the Infernoids but also the Clifforts was an undertaking the remaining allied forces were ill prepared for. To remedy this, Dance Princess of the Necros tried to combine the necromancy of Necros Mirror and the cycle of the Gishki Aqua Mirror together to revive the souls lost to the Shadal. With that power, the successfully revived Gem Knight Master Diamond emerged from the remains of El Shadal Gristia to atone for his sins committed as a Shadal. Master Diamond threw himself into the war. After rendezvousing with the Teller Knights, Master Diamond tried to perform the ultimate fusion by weaving together his own power of fusion, the valiant form of the Constellars in his memory, and the power of connecting stars wielded by the Teller Knight, combining the 4 chosen Teller Knights of Sirius, Proclon, Capella, and Regal, and the 2 Teller Rings housing the souls of Constellar, Aldebaran, and Pollux with himself. Gem Knight Master Diamond transformed into the legendary divine dragon Stellar Knight Constellar Diamond. With his new form, Diamond appeared at battle against the Infernoids and Clifforts. Jittering, is this live? This is live.
This is live. Yes.
Yes. It's probably a YouTube video. Oh, are we a YouTube video? I didn't know.
This is going to be a VOD.
Wow. This is a YouTube video? I didn't know that. I thought I was live.
Yeah, same.
Fuck, damn, I didn't know I was a YouTube video.
I didn't know. I could have just saved all this effort.
Fuck, like, why didn't you tell us we were a YouTube video? God damn.
Yeah.
That's one less button I had to play. Nice to meet you. It's live, you guys. Yeah. Sorry, we were talking with chat earlier, but it's like really hard to talk with chat when you're reading a 5,000 word text.
Yeah.
Rallying around Teller Knight Constellar Diamond, the allied forces regained their strength and succeeded in pushing back the waves of Infernoid and Clifforts, advancing through the remains of the Infernoids and Clifforts they defeated. The allied forces finally came face to face with Infernoid Anunku. However, the allied forces struggled in the face of the overwhelming power of Anunku, and even their last ray of hope, Constellar Diamond, looked to be no match, appearing on the verge of falling to the purgatory of Anunku.
Not Anunku. Anything but Anunku.
Let's see. At his most dire moment, help arrived for Satellar Knight Constellar Diamond in the form of a ray of light. Constellar Sombre succeeded in materializing the 9th and final Yangzing, Denlong, first of the Yangzing. Kind of bullshit to me, it's not first, but whatever. Returned to the battlefield, using the rest of what little remained of her power of creation after materializing Denlong. Sombre fused with Constellar Diamond and all of the remaining Teller Knights what was created was the true planetary savior, Teller Knight Poltamias, who I believe is banned.
He is.
Yeah, he is banned specifically because
Cyber Dragon Infinity.
Because Cyber Dragon Infinity, yeah. With the birth of Teller Knight Poltamias, the Allied forces finally defeated Anunku. As the Allied forces celebrated their victory, Shurit, strategist of the Necros, noticed that the power of the 3 Ice Barrier dragons within him had disappeared. Sensing that this meant the war was not yet over, the Allied forces began searching for the remnants of the Infernoid in Cliffort. However, they discovered that the vacuum tubes of the fallen Infernoids had disappeared with the remaining from their remains, and left it. And the trail had gone cold on Infernoid Deviati. While escaping the chase of the Allied
you
forces,
lose a big dragon like that?
I don't fucking know. Deviati had managed to collect the vacuum tubes of the fallen Infernoids. To gain even greater power, it managed to reach the purgatory where the 3 Ice Barrier dragons were previously sealed, the Void Trap Hole.
Oh,
Once there, Deviati managed to absorb the unrivaled power of the 3 dragons of the Ice Barrier, Brianak, Gungnir, and Trishula, the entities said to have nearly destroyed the world in primordial times. Deviati then used the power of the Ice Barrier dragons to release the seal on the currently frozen but still active El Shadal Shekinaga, and absorbed it into itself. Realizing the goal of Deviati, the Allied forces hurried to Shekinaga, but they were too late. El Shadal Anuntilis had been born, which is still, by the way, worse than Construct. Wielding not only the power of the Shadals, Clifforts, and Infernoids, but also 3 Ice Barrier dragons, El Shadal Anuntilis was strong enough to rival even the Goddess of Rebirth from the past. Channeling the Necrals of Sophia, the Goddess of Sophia herself, Dance Princess of the Necrals, set out to stop Anuntilla together with Tellarknight Poltamias. The Necrals that were left behind used the time to revive the 8 Yang Xing formerly turned into Shadals using their cycle. The 8 revived Yang Xings steeled their resolve to stand against the threat of El Shadal and Antilles by using their own sleeping dragon powers, synchronizing with their resolve. Exa, the enforcer of the Necrons, used the spiritual power of the 8 Yang Xings, the medium, to channel the 8 Dragoonities of ancient times. The souls of the 8 Dragoonities became one and turned into Dragoonity Divine Lance, a lance capable of piercing even the gods. This lance was entrusted to Necrals of Sophia and locked in a battle to the death. Locked in a battle to death. To the death with Anuntilis. Funnily enough, Exa and Shurit still did shit during that fight, by the way. Like, fucking Exa channeled decisive armor. Like, Exa channeled the spirit of Controller, which became decisive armor. So that's what happened to Controller, by the way. And fucking Shurit channels the dragon that fucking killed, or that fucking took down Trishula. Was it that one Dragoonity card? I like how they really glossed over the fact that Dragoonity helped take down dragons, like the Ice Barrier
dragons become the dragon killers.
Yeah. I like how they like completely ignored the fact that was a thing that happened in the lore in this. With the gathering, I was gonna say gaze, but it doesn't say gaze there. It says gathering. With the gathering of Tellarknight Poltamias, Necrals of Sophia, Dragoonity Divine Lance, and Evil Swarm Kirkion, inside of El Shadal and Antilles, in one place, the power of the goddess and the power of the Goddess of Rebirth, the power of creation and destruction. The 10 cores were assembled, and the aura pulsating from this gathering became the key to starting up the Sephiroth system. the counterpart to the Cliffoth system from within the Naturia sacred tree. A holy light emanating from the floating sacred tree chose 10 lives from the surface world to transform into the Zephyra. This Zephyra, just like the Clifforts, is part of a system of the sacred tree. Its original purpose was as a defense system that purged the damaging errors in the sacred tree. But for this war, in order to purge the anomalies, the anomaly threatening to destroy the planet known as Untitled, it shared its power with the surface life forms. And so it chose 10 holy warriors who stood against Untitled, which threatened to destroy both the world and the sacred tree. Can't find it. Oh wow, that's gotta be annoying. Yeah.
With the arrival of the 10 chosen Zephyr warriors, things finally turned around for the Allied forces, which was strained just to stop El Shaddai and Nolix's tracks. With the Dragoonity Divine Lance in their hand, Tellarknight Ptolemaeus and Necros of Sophia used the power of Sagittarius, maintained by Tellarknight Alsam, to launch the lance. With the power of the 8 dragons infused within, the Divine Lance's sure kill shot struck Anoitelis, shattering into pieces and finally defeating it. Hidden within the remains of El Shaddai and Olisila was Infernoid Decatron, the head of Infernoid Deviati, still alive and functional. Using the power of the cores within its 10 vacuum tubes, Decatron managed to access the Qliphoth system within the sacred tree and awaken the true body of Tierra, source of destruction. Revived as Infernoid Tierra, it set out to do what Sophia once did, to wipe out all the life born from the Sephiroth system. To fully revive it to its divine form, Infernoid Tierra still needed the power of creation that once belonged to Sophia. To solve this problem, Tierra planned to revive Gem Knight Lapis, who had been sleeping inside El Shaddai construct, as she is the mirror image of Tellarknight Ptolemaeus, including her power of creation, and absorbed the power this way. Tierra first forcefully removed the seal-suppressing construct, then manipulated the core of the defunct Apoclephort towers, and resonated it with the vacuum tubes on Infernoid Decatron, awakening the soul of Gem Knight Lapis that had been trapped in a vacuum tube since the previous war. After spending decades in prison within an Infernoid, most of her life energy had been converted to the Qliphoth system. As a shell of her former self, Lapis became nothing more than a vanguard of Tierra. Lapis and Lazuli were twins who were born with their bodies merged together. Although they split up after birth, the pyroxene and all its power went to Lapis, and Lazuli became a special Gem Knight without a pyroxene. It is for this reason that Lazuli is the only Gem Knight without a pyroxene. Tellarknight Ptolemaeus was completely bewildered at the form of Dark Tellarknight Battlemaius, essentially her other half. Under the control of Infernoid Tierra, Battlemaius activated the remains of the 10 Qliphorts. Once the activation was complete, Tierra absorbed the 10 Qliphort and Battlemaius into itself, with the powers of creation and destruction, as well as the core back in its possession. The ancient god of destruction, Tierra, source of destruction, was fully revived at last. In the face of the god of destruction, with its true powers regained, those on the surface could do nothing but await the purgation. With her final faint sliver of hope, Ptolemaeus released the power of the 9 Yangzing she had once materialized to control the sacred tree at the Sephiroth system. That power activated the hidden 11th Zephyra of the Sephiroth system and refused the 10 cores of the 10 Zephyra, the 11th Zephyra chose Zephyr Core, who possessed auras of both light and darkness, and completed the diffusion with its core. Zephyrath.
Yeah.
The one who stood to face Tierra's source of destruction was the protector of the Naturia's sacred tree, Zephyrath.
Which is almost impossible to summon.
The scale of their battle shook the entire planet and lasted for 1,000 days and 1,000 nights. At the dawn of the 1,000th day, the forms of Tierra and Zephyrath were nowhere to be seen. The only things left were the charred remains of the sacred tree and 2 Gem Knights.
The war which shook the heavens and the earth had finally come to an end. With the vanishment of Tierra, source of destruction, those imprisoned in the vacuum tubes of the Infernoid remains were freed. Ritual Beast Tamer Elder, upon seeing the return of Gusto Falco, sobbed uncontrollably, as he did in his youth as Kamui, Hope of Gusto. The other veterans of the previous war, having lived on for decades without ever expecting to see their old friends again in this lifetime, reunited with comrades of their own. With the Naturia sacred tree out of action, the surface lives had lost their god, while many were at a loss of what to do. Crystal saw light emanating from the sacred tree. Thought to be completely inactive, with their friends and comrades watching over them, Crystal disappeared into the light along with Lapis, as the dead and Shadalls. They have wandered around the world, but they have reached their final resting place. However, Crystal knows his past friends and comrades are waiting just beyond that light. The future that they should head towards. That is a future in which life and death no longer endlessly repeat by the control of the sacred tree. It is a world in which those living on Earth are promised tranquility, freed from the shackles of gods, to seek out that world, to create that promised land. He, just as those who were left behind by that light once did, embarks on a journey to an unknown horizon. And that's how the that's how it ends. We don't know what happens after that. I would like to know what happens. Like just give us a card called Journey's End. That's a field
I think
spell.
that's actually a card.
Yeah, Journey's End is probably a card. It's not. Would you look at that?
It's not. How is it not?
How is it not a card, Konami?
There are so many, there are so many archetypes that have that as a perfect name to end it with, and they haven't used it. Excuse me?
You know what? I'm actually disappointed. You motherfucker.
What?
Genex Allied Triforce. Oh my god, you motherfucker.
That's been in my meme. I made that a while ago.
So, that was an interesting,
That was just apocalypse.
Nani
after
the fuck Konami? Yeah, Journey's End should be a fucking card. I can't believe it's not.
There were 17 different archetypes you could support with that.
At the very least. 17